The movie reviewed in this episode is rated R. Listener discretion is advised.
It's so gross.
I would be so offended. I would
Yeah.
see ghosts too. I'd make you see. I'd be like,
Yeah, I would jump out a window.
listen, I. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Scary Movie Nights podcast, a podcast for friends and lovers of scary movies. Today, we will be discussing The Exorcist. That's Mariana,
And that's Joanne.
and we are your hosts for the night. But first, Mariana, what made you glad you aren't possessed by an evil spirit of hell this week?
That is such a good question. Today, I'm glad that I'm not possessed by an evil spirit from hell. I'm glad because I got to eat poke for lunch today.
Word.
That's
perfect. I shared this meme on Instagram today. It was just this little girl eating food, and it was like, "This is the best day of my life." And the caption was like, "Me whenever I eat any good food."
Whenever I eat anything.
Whenever I eat anything.
Whenever I eat anything. What makes you glad that you weren't possessed by an evil spirit from hell today? This week?
Well, this week, let's see. That's a good question. I didn't actually think of an answer. But I guess I'm just glad. Like, I love my job.
Okay.
So actually, I was thinking about my students because they're so much fun. So yeah, I love that.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
so
they're
good.
pretty great actually. Yeah, we have a lot of fun. So
Aw.
I'm really happy to be teaching Spanish this
Do you
year.
think
It's
they'll
really
be
great.
listening?
So you know what's funny is that they were like, "Mr. Khan, are you coming to the game tonight?" And I was like, "No, I'm sorry guys. Unfortunately, I'm recording my podcast. Sorry, I'm recording." And they were like, "What? Whoa, like where can I listen?" Da, 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 da. Yeah. So I think they're really excited about
That's
it. Just as we are, it's really
awesome.
great. I love it. Yeah.
That's so cool. I haven't told my students, but I think I will. I wasn't going to.
I think you should at least tell the horror movie club,
Oh, yes.
right?
Yeah.
Is that still going? Is that still going?
I believe so. Yeah.
Word. Oh my God, I love that so
Yeah.
much. So listeners, just in case you didn't know me personally, of course, back when we worked together at the same school, I started a horror film club with just like a handful of students. And we never truly grew too much, but like the students who came were really dedicated to it, and we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was consistent. Like,
It
there's
was
always like
consistent.
15, 20 kids
Yep.
in there.
And they would like, it was funny because they'd bring like canes over. They'd go to McDonald's and bring snacks. And I was like, okay, well, you'll come in like 20 minutes after the movie started, but it's
Go
fine.
off.
I mean, we'd have people sign permission slips and stuff
Yeah.
like that to make sure that their parents knew they were watching, because some scary movies obviously are rated
Yeah,
R,
rated
and,
R.
and not always appropriate. So, we never watched anything totally outlandish though. It was, we watched Sinister.
So good.
Sinister's really good.
The Conjuring.
We watched The Conjuring. You were there for that one.
I was there. I was there for the end of Sinister because I had club that day after
Oh,
school too.
right.
So I came in after I had club, so I missed the first hour of Sinister. But I had already seen it before, so it was good.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad to hear
Great
that
film.
horror film club is
Yeah.
still going. And if you guys ever want like a guest appearance, let me know. I mean, I don't know if I'll be able to go, but
Kids would die.
Yes,
They would.
I would too. So
They would freak.
I know. But enough about that. Let's get our heads spinning for The Exorcist.
Yay!
So, in case you've never seen The Exorcist, we wanted to start with a little bit of a synopsis, courtesy of ChatGPT. Thank you, Chatty. The Exorcist was released in theaters in 1973. It was directed by William Friedkin and is based on the 1971 book by the same name, written by William Peter Blatty, who actually also wrote the screenplay, and I think that's really, really fun, and we'll talk about that later. The film stars Ellen Burstyn as Chris McNeil, Max von Sydow as Father Marin, Jason Miller as Father Damien Demi Karras, and Linda Blair as Reagan McNeil. The story centers on 12-year-old Reagan McNeil, who begins exhibiting disturbing and violent behavior. Her mother, Chris McNeil, a successful actress, first seeks medical help, But when doctors are unable to explain or cure Reagan's condition, she turns to the Catholic Church. Father Marin, an experienced exorcist, and Father Karras, a Jesuit priest grappling with his own crisis of faith, are called upon to perform an exorcism. As the demonic presence inside Reagan intensifies, the priests face a harrowing battle of faith and courage. So, there you have.
Yeah.
That's a great little
Short
synopsis.
and sweet.
Yeah.
Doesn't really have any spoilers.
No.
That you didn't already know about from maybe
Correct.
watching the trailer.
Right. And we do have this is our pre-spoiler section, by the way. So no spoilers. We'll let you know when spoilers do arrive, so that you can either pause it or skip that section and then go watch the movie, because you have to watch this movie. I mean, it's just such a classic.
Yeah, for sure. And also the movie came out in 1973, so
Right. You've had a little bit of time.
you've had some time to watch this film.
Right. And I also will say, this is not really a disclaimer, but I have read the book. Actually, it's really good. It's a really great book. So if you love to read, especially horror, I highly recommend. So I will be kind of interjecting, not to be that annoying person. Like, I've read the book. Actually, I read the book, and
Actually, the book says this.
yeah. But I just feel like it's interesting, to
Yeah,
like
for
compare the
sure.
movie versus the book. As far as like quality of both, I like both for different reasons, and I think
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I think that William Peter
Blatty.
Blatty, Blatty, writing the screenplay for it was
Yes.
actually such an interesting fact,
Yeah.
because they do align pretty well.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
just about to ask that, because I feel like a lot of the times whenever books are adapted to film, sometimes the authors aren't really happy with how the film comes out. Like with like Percy Jackson, like that comes to mind.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, like the original one, like with oh my god, what's his name?
I don't
Logan Lerman.
know. Okay.
Where he fights Medusa with the iPod.
Okay, I'm gonna confess, the iPad.
iPod. He has
Oh,
like
the
a little
iPod?
iPod, and
Not
you know
the
how,
iPod.
You know how there should be like a mirror on the back, and
Yes.
you can't look Medusa in the eye. He's like looking around corners
Oh my
with an
god!
iPod.
What
That-
that's crazy.
I love that movie. It's a bad adaptation of the book, but the movie on its own is pretty iconic. The like Lotus Casino scene.
Yeah.
It's so. Have you read Percy Jackson?
No, I haven't.
You've got to read
I
Percy
haven't
Jackson.
read or no.
They're so good.
Honestly, I have heard they're amazing.
The books are amazing.
Well, you also have Stephen King.
Yeah.
He complains a lot about The Shining. He doesn't
Yeah.
actually like the movie. The movie is amazing.
I love the movie.
The movie's great.
Yeah.
I've never read the book because it's really long. But yeah, Stephen King does not like the movie as an
Yeah.
adaptation of his book.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting to me. But this, Blatty writing the screenplay and the book, I think that really puts like a nice authenticity to the movie that otherwise I think would not have been
Yeah.
present.
Because who knows the story better than the
Right.
author themselves?
Correct.
So
Right.
absolutely love that.
So, I will be interjecting from time to time with like, hey, this is a cool book fact if you didn't know it, whatever.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Give me all your book facts.
I will give you the book facts. I wrote some. Yay.
Good.
So, I think we have time for some fun facts.
Yeah. So I researched the movie somewhat thoroughly.
Nice.
And these are some interesting facts that I found from reading through various websites, Wikipedia, Reddit, etc. So the director was William Friedkin, as we said earlier. And apparently he had some pretty crazy methods to elicit reactions from his actors. From verbally abusing them to slapping them and firing blanks without warning, which sounds kind of scary. And I know that there's a lot of like, I guess, conversations around like these weird things that happened on the set of this movie. And people are like, oh, like, the movie itself like has some sort of like haunting around it because of all the things that happened. I know that people like died during the filming, and there was like several injuries during the filming of the movie as well. But it seems like the director himself was like pretty like intense, unhinged a little bit about how he kind of captured these scenes and captured these reactions from his actors. So I think maybe like that could have something to do with it.
Right.
Perhaps?
I was gonna say, like if you put people on edge,
Yeah.
they're going to experience
For
things
sure.
differently. It will shift their perspective of the world around them. And I almost wonder if he achieved this end goal,
Yeah.
right? Of like creating this mythology around the movie of, oh, weird things would happen on set. Da, 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 da. I even wonder if he even set some of those things up
Maybe.
without anyone knowing, and he never told anyone.
Oh, I would maybe.
You
if
know
I
what I
really
mean?
wanted it to be
Yeah.
really spooky.
Correct.
No,
yeah.
but like in a nice way.
Yeah, not abusive.
Yeah, not like firing blanks without warning way.
This sounds really intense.
It does. Also, apparently, so he told Miller, who played Father Dimmy. I love that they
Father
call him
Karras.
Dimmy.
Dimmy, yeah, that's what his
Dimmy
mother called him.
Karras.
Yeah.
Dimmy. So he was told that the vomit was gonna hit him in the chest, which, by the way, and I saw different things on different websites, but from what I can gather, the vomit was actually pea soup, and they added like oatmeal to give it, some texture, some fun texture.
Consistency.
And it was pumped through like a hidden tube, and that was supposed to hit him in the chest. So whenever they did all of their like I guess practice takes, the vomit would hit him in the chest. But then when they did the first like actual take, the vomit hit him in the face. And so that like kind of added to his like really disgusted reaction that he has in the film when that happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He was waterboarded with pea soup.
With pea soup and oatmeal.
Oatmeal.
Pea soup porridge, basically. That's
Porridge.
disgusting.
It's so gross.
I would be so offended. I
Yeah.
would see ghosts too. I'd make you see. I'd be like,
Yeah, I would jump out a window.
listen. Oh my god, that's so great. Same. Actually, I hate it when people hit my face with things. Like if someone throws something at me and it hits my face, I will instantly dislike you. It's like minus 10
Yeah.
approval. Like it's like horrible.
You're losing aura points.
You're literally
actively.
losing aura points. Yeah.
So a lot of crew members found the director difficult to work with as well. Also, as far as casting, some interesting people were considered for the roles in this film, and Friedkin actually was being pushed to go with like well-known actors, but he actually chose to go with some actors that weren't as well-known for this film. I didn't know, but apparently Audrey Hepburn was up for the role
that
of
is so
Chris,
cool.
which is crazy, but
I love
she
that.
rejected the part along with Anne Bancroft and Jane Fonda.
Jane Fonda, though, imagine. She's a big. I actually love Jane Fonda. Even
Yeah.
now, she's so funny.
Yeah.
She does like I don't know what you would call the genre of movie, but she plays like older parts with her older friends, and like I
Yes.
think it's called the book club.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Do you know what I mean?
It's giving like Adam Sandler and
I love
his
it
buddies
so
like
much.
making
Yes,
grown-up movies.
yes,
They're
absolutely. Like
it's giving
and
that.
and they're still so funny. They
Yeah.
stay relevant, and I love that because I feel like women actors especially have faced so many barriers in terms of having to be young, having to be conventionally beautiful.
Yep.
Otherwise they wouldn't get any roles.
Uh-huh.
And I think they are breaking barriers making those movies, and
For
they're
sure.
so good. I love them. Every time one comes out, Brian and I are like, we have to go to the movies. Like, we gotta go watch Book Club 3 or whatever it is.
Yes. And she has that one show that's also like with her friend.
Oh yeah,
it's like
oh
my God,
man.
wait, I
Brian
have to
actually
look it
loves that
up.
show. No, we have to remember
it's
Jeannie. No,
like someone and some. Oh, Grace and Frankie.
Grace and Frankie.
Grace and Frankie.
Oh my gosh, yes, yeah. It's good.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so they were considered for the role of Chris McNeil,
Yes.
but they rejected the part.
They rejected the part.
I'm not surprised because the movie, I think they also probably had trouble casting the film because it was so, it was crazy.
Like controversial
At
for
the time, for sure. In the
sure.
70s, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yeah.
As far as Reagan, Janet Leigh, who is Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, would not let Jamie Lee Curtis audition for the film because she thought it was way too dark.
Yep.
And they ended up going with Linda Blair, whose mother like brought her to the casting. Actually,
Yeah. So imagine having had Jamie Lee Curtis in The Exorcist. Would we have Halloween?
I don't know. would we have what's that movie? The one with the bagel. Do you know what movie I'm talking about?
Oh,
Everything
we have
Everywhere
it
All
all
at
at
Once. Would
once.
we have Everything Everywhere All at
Would
Once?
we have that?
If she had played Reagan?
I just don't think I could handle that multiverse.
No. She'd be too powerful.
Too powerful.
She's, I mean, arguably already too powerful.
Correct. Yes. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, so...
Would we have Freaky Friday?
Would we...
All of these questions.
And there's another Freaky Friday coming out soon.
Yes, there is.
Obviously. Okay, so... Yes, Jamie Lee Curtis was considered for the role of Reagan. It ended up being it going to Linda Blair. And I did read online that they cast her partly because she just looked like a normal, like, 12-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
She definitely looked like a normal 12. I think they said on there that she wasn't, like, too pretty or anything, which is kind of mean. But that's what they were going for. They just wanted this average kid. And then Mercedes McCambridge was cast as the voice of the demon in the film, Pazuzu. Right. And she did all these kinds of crazy things to create the voice, apparently eating raw eggs and drinking whiskey and chain smoking cigarettes to make the demon sound
all
like super.
At once.
Yeah, she was just
like
raw
egg shot,
dogging eggs.
whiskey shot.
Again, egg shot, whiskey shot. She smelled great.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yeah. Eileen Dietz was cast as Linda Blair's stunt double. And so she filled in for those like really hardcore scenes where at that point Reagan's character's super possessed. There's a lot of like makeup going on. So she filled in for the scenes like when she masturbates with a crucifix and other things that are a little bit too violent for Linda Blair, who was an actual 12-year-old at the time.
Which I want to talk about that scene in our spoiler section. Yeah. Because wow.
Yeah.
Like just wow.
I mean, even now, like watching it, like 2024, I like clutch my pearls a
little
bit.
For sure. Yeah.
What?
I also I've heard before. So Linda Blair was actually up for an Oscar for her role in The Exorcist, which is incredible because it's a horror film. Yeah. And as we know, the Academy really does not look well upon a lot of horror movies. You know, I have feelings about that I won't go into now, but she did not win that, and I think it was partly because of this voice actor issue. They felt like she didn't deserve the Oscar because she was not saying some of the lines. Which is crazy.
Also, whenever the movie initially came out, they actually didn't credit Mercedes McCambridge.
Oh, right.
Like, her name wasn't in the credits, and so that was, like, a whole lawsuit afterwards. Yeah. And her name was added. And also, speaking of awards, this was the first horror film nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards.
Whoa.
It didn't win, but it was nominated. And it was actually nominated in 9 other categories. And it won 2. It won Best Adapted Screenplay, which is really cool for
That's
Blatty.
Really great.
Good for him. And Best Sound.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
I actually have feelings and thoughts about the sound we're going to get into later.
Yeah.
Yeah, in our good, bad, spooky section.
Absolutely. As far as cinematography, this movie, the director of photography was Owen Roizman. He had worked with Friedman previously in another film, and from what I read, they really wanted this house to be set up as a normal house with regular lights and reflective surfaces. So that was something that they had to work really hard around, was lighting the scenes and also working with like mirrors or pots like in the kitchen that might reflect, you know, the cameras. But they really wanted it to seem like a normal, like average home. Yeah. The film is set in Washington, D.C., and then the film's opening sequences were filmed near Mosul in Iraq at the time. And this was when the US and Iraq didn't have like super great diplomatic relationships. So Warner Brothers was actually a little bit scared that Friedkin and his crew might not be able to return. But apparently he negotiated filming arrangements directly with local officials of the ruling Ba'ath Party, who required that he hire local workers as crew, which is kind of cool, and teach filmmaking to interested residents, which I think is pretty neat. That's awesome. And the archaeological dig site that is shown in the film is Hatra, southwest of Mosul. And temperatures that day were crazy high, like 130 degrees Fahrenheit. And so that limited shooting to dawn and dusk. So they were like filming super early and super and like later in the day to get those shots, which is kind of crazy. I like kind of don't think about that part of the movie as much because of obviously everything that happens towards the end of the film. But that is like pretty important, like exposition. And it's like the first 20 minutes of the movie. Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely interesting to me, like that prologue part of the film. That is literally the prologue in the book as well. So it was very interesting. Obviously, it is a very important part if Blatty saw fit to, okay, let's put the prologue in the movie and give it, actually, it's a pretty extensive.
It's long, yeah.
It's a pretty long prologue in the movie, that could be used to tell other things. So we can definitely talk about that too. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Okay, some miscellaneous details. A lot of the cast and crew were injured during shooting. Some died in some like unusual accidents. Production of this film took twice as long as scheduled, and it cost almost 3 times the initial budget. So this,
oh my god.
along with
Imagine
all these other
being like, hey, Hollywood daddy,
Yeah.
can I have some more money to film my Exorcism
Money,
movie?
please!
Money please.
Money please, money times 3, please.
You're perfect and you've done nothing wrong ever. Here's your money.
Yes. So it's 3 times the initial budget, and a lot of this like all led to people thinking that this film was cursed. Also the iconic scene which I have drawn and the
Oh yes.
cover for all of the movie posters. That was the first day that Max von Sydow was on set. Like that was
Played Father Marin.
He played
Yeah.
Father Marin, and that was his first scene. He was almost 44 at the time of
Wow.
shooting, which I feel like he looks older than that. Like
Yeah. Well, I
right?
mean, they
Maybe?
probably he's supposed to
maybe
be
they
older.
aged him. Yeah, that's
There's
true.
he's supposed to be older, yeah.
That's true. Also, the I guess this might get into some spoilers.
Oh, you talk. Yeah. Yeah, we can mention that later.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll come back to that. Also, some other scenes. So during the filming of the film, Linda Blair did have like a back injury. She fractured her back
Yeah.
filming the movie, and also her stunt double Ellen Burstyn broke her tailbone during this film as well.
Whoa.
Yeah, chiropractors loved this film.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Ellen Burstyn was
she was.
no, she played Chris McNeil.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
Ellen Burstyn.
I'm
played
assuming it's
Chris
when
McNeil.
she.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's when she like
Yeah, pushed her
falls back.
Yeah. Wow.
You're right.
So
Thank
many
you for
injuries.
catching
That's
that.
crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see why it was
Yeah.
cursed. I mean, you're dealing with such a horrific experience,
Yeah.
right? And you have a director who's like
A little baddie.
basically assaulting you,
Yeah.
right, at all times. You have things that go wrong, a little wrong, and yeah, I can just see that this is like the mythology. This
Yeah.
created like Catholic horror, basically,
Totally.
right?
Totally. And also, speaking of that, like the movie features a Ouija board.
Uh-huh.
Which at the time, like they've been manufactured by Hasbro for a very long time, and
Yeah.
they've never been thought of as these like scary, like spooky things that you use to like summon demons and stuff
Yeah.
until like after this film. So that's kind of
Yeah.
game changing for Hasbro and for Ouija boards everywhere.
I mean, not to get too, in the weeds about it. I think that is so interesting myself because, okay, so who's to say that they weren't? Okay, let me back up. So people say when you play with a Ouija board, you open a
Yeah.
door, right? So before you stop playing with the Ouija board, you have to close the
Yeah.
door. So who's to say that those doors weren't being opened or closed before the movie?
Yeah.
But it almost makes you wonder if the belief that it does that it gives it the power
Yeah.
to do the thing. So myself, I'm a huge believer of that.
Me
all
too.
of that stuff,
Me too.
of
I will
spiritual
not
stuff.
play
I will
with the
never
Ouija
play with
board.
a Ouija board. I
No,
understand
never,
that
never, never.
even if I close the door, I will forever worry that I'm haunted by
No,
XYZ, demon,
absolutely.
ghost, spirit,
I
specter, whatever.
will never have never. I've been at sleepovers
Never,
where
ever,
people are like,
ever.
"Let's play with the Ouija board," and I'm like, "No, thank you. I'm good. Thank
Mom,
you."
can you pick me up? They're playing with Ouija boards.
Mom, they're playing with Ouija boards.
No, yeah, absolutely not.
No, definitely no.
Yeah, so those are very interesting actually.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about like the Friedkin being just batshit, during this
Yeah.
time. And but I almost wonder too if it would have been as effective of a film if he hadn't have been that
Yeah. I mean, I definitely had those same thoughts of like, like these people who make like art. I think movies
Yeah.
are a form of art.
Oh, 100%.
Like they just have this vision and they'll
Yeah.
do anything to get it, and I
Anything.
like totally respect that. That
Yeah.
could not be me.
No,
I'm
not
such
me.
a people pleaser. I'd be like, hey, if you don't mind, like,
Well,
if we could
also-
if we could just splash a little bit of pea soup on your face, like just a little.
Are you sure though? It's okay if not.
If you don't want to do it, like, we'll just change the script. Like, it's
Honestly,
okay.
I'm by no means justifying what he did. I think it's pretty
Right.
horrible.
No,
You know what I
completely.
mean? But I mean, I don't know. I wonder, like, if he hadn't done those things,
Yeah.
would we have The Exorcist as it exists today?
Yeah, probably not.
And for me, I don't think it's necessarily worth it to have. It's an excellent film. I don't know if it's worth it to have the film in exchange for like the health of Linda Blair, for
Yeah.
example. You know what I mean? Whom, by the way, didn't even win the Oscar.
Yeah.
Dumb. She should have.
Yeah. Snub.
Snub. Totally snub. Yeah. Imagine winning an Oscar that young.
Oh my
I wonder who the
God.
youngest Oscar winner is. But that's
Yeah,
besides
I
the
don't
point.
know.
So, thank you for those facts, Mariana. I appreciate you. Now we'll move on to like a more spoilery section of the show.
Yes.
So if you haven't watched the movie and don't want it to be spoiled, even though I don't know how you haven't watched this film yet, but if for
You know
some
what? Just
reason
like
you don't
hit
want,
pause and like go watch the movie.
correct,
and
and
then
then
come
come back and
Yeah.
listen to the rest of the podcast.
Okay, you're back now.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay,
Right?
great.
Okay, great. So, let's talk about that crucifix scene, please. Let's just jump right into that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Because so Linda Blair did not film that.
No.
First of all,
No, no,
that
it
was
was her
her
stunt double.
her stunt double,
Mhm.
because that's very understandable.
Yeah.
And this scene actually played out exactly the same way in the book,
Really.
except you get it from Chris's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And like at first you don't know what's going on. So like her assistant Sharon, I think, she is yelling at her like, Chris, come quick, da 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 da. And so Chris like runs up, she's like, oh my god, what is happening now? And she comes in, and masturbating with a crucifix, I think, is not really what she's doing. She's just stabbing herself at this point with the crucifix and bleeding. And her like okay, this is very graphic, so in case you don't, you can skip this part. Putting Chris, like her mother's head, to her vagina
Yeah.
and saying those things that she said,
Yeah.
and then she basically like slaps her or like punches her or something, and she gets sent reeling back. This is when
Yeah.
Ellen Burstyn breaks her tailbone,
Mhm.
because she gets pushed back so hard that it's like the room is reeling for her. She doesn't know
Yeah.
what's happening, what her daughter's doing, who this person even is, that she doesn't even consider her daughter anymore.
Yeah. Because at that point they're pretty like deep into the
They're pretty
possession.
deep into the possession, yeah. So it's one of those moments. I mean, what a moment to put that into a movie in the 70s and have people watch it on a big screen. That to me is, I mean, part of the insanity of Blatty.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so. For sure.
Not even Blatty, but Friedkin also, to
Yeah.
be like, yeah, we're directing that.
Like,
yeah, we're gonna do that. We're
We
putting
need to
that
see
in.
that on the silver
Yeah,
screen. Make it big.
Correct, yeah. And so that was crazy. What are your thoughts on that?
I just remember being shocked by that scene and just really freaked out and like uncomfortable. But it's so good. Like, I feel like the fact that it's so impactful like
Yeah.
makes the movie.
Yes.
And like
it's a real turning point.
Yeah, I
right?
think so. And maybe this is like my point of view, but like I've seen a lot of like possession films, so I don't know what a person going into the movies in 1973 would have thought going into this film
Yeah.
if they had seen a lot of that happen. But I was like, I've seen a lot of movies where like crazy shit happens and like there's like gore and stuff, but this one I was like, oh my god, what is happening?
Yeah.
That's so scary.
Yeah.
It was super creepy, and I also really, really love the makeup in the film.
Oh yeah. Oh
Just
yeah.
insane.
Excellent
like,
for the time. Yeah.
excellent. It scares me like to this day, like to see a picture of Linda Blair like in her makeup as Reagan, like
Yeah.
possessed. It scares me. That's one of my favorite parts about the movie. It's that it really
Yeah.
scares me. Like I don't want to see that. Every time I watch the movie, I'm like,
The face.
yeah, the face. I'm like,
It kind of sticks with you a little
it
bit.
does. Yeah,
It kind of
totally.
sticks with you a little bit. Even after you
Yeah.
finish it, you can
The
still see it.
eyes.
The eyes,
The
all the
eyes.
cuts and the like, the lips and the,
Mhm.
because like also in the book, it describes how it also changes her physically.
Yeah.
And in the movie, you hear the demons switch between personalities too. Like one moment he's Father Karras's mother. One moment he's Chris McNeil's friend who
Yeah.
died. And every time the demon changes personalities, it changes the appearance of Reagan.
Wow. Yeah.
Not necessarily enough that it seems supernatural, but enough that it is noticeable by the people who are looking at her. And they mention it in the book. Oh, she changes to the personality of this, to the demon character, to the Jimmy's mother's character. And that's another thing in the book too that I want to mention is the possession. Well, no, not the possession. The exorcism part in the book. It's not very long. It is maybe only about 10% of the book.
Wow.
10, maybe 15%. The rest of the book is Chris, the doctors. There's a detective there too who plays like a really big part in the book. Actually, yeah. Detective Kinderman and Father Karras eventually. They are all trying to figure out what is medically wrong with her.
Yeah.
And they start, with the very basic exams, kind of like what you see in the movie, spinal taps and all that.
Yeah.
Even though those are more involved, but not so basic. And they want to rule out all physiological reasons for why she is this way. And then they're like, okay, then you can go to a psychiatrist. You need to just go to a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And you see that in the movie too, when she is hypnotized. That moment too, that's in the book. But eventually for me, it gets a little weird and hokey because you have this girl who's levitating.
Yeah.
Okay. Furniture is moving in her room.
Yeah.
The bed is shaking. And the doctor's like, well, it could be seizures. And then you even have Father Karras at some points go like, oh, well, strong emotional states have been seen to cause telekinesis. And I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, literally, what even are you talking about? He spends all this time trying to figure out if she's really possessed.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny is he's gathering evidence of possession to present to the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Because eventually he's like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And Chris is like, well, damn it, like, help me.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't care. Because Chris McNeil is not a religious person. Like, she does not, she's atheist, basically.
Yeah.
And so she's like, no, we have to, like, I don't care if I don't believe in this. Reagan might believe in this. And if it helps her, please help me do an exorcism. Like, she's desperate at this point. And Father Karras is like, okay, fine. Like, starts gathering evidence. The church literally, like, approves his exorcism immediately.
Oh my god.
So while he's like, yeah, no, I don't know if this is possession. Actually, the church is like, exorcise her.
Yep.
Exorcise her right now.
Stamp.
Yeah.
That's
so it's really
so
interesting.
funny. I also, like, as you were speaking, like, some other, like, impactful scenes kind of came to mind. So, like, obviously the crucifix masturbation scene is crazy, and it's
Oof.
one of them.
Yeah.
when she pees at the dinner party.
Oh no, yeah.
Pretty iconic. And like a little bit shocking, and like you kind of feel like embarrassed. Like it just
Yeah.
it kind of evokes weird feelings. And then also
Line she tells the astronaut, "You're gonna die up there." I was
oh,
like,
that's so
oh.
creepy.
Yeah, I was
so creepy.
Imagine being the astronaut.
Oh my god, I would literally just simply not go up there.
go.
I'd be like, actually, I'm sick. I can't go.
I've always wanted to be an astronaut, but not anymore.
Yeah. And also there's a scene whenever they're doing like all of those like medical tests. Like I don't know if they're doing like a spinal tap, but she's like strapped to a bed and they're like putting a needle like in her neck.
Yeah.
I remember watching that and being like, oh,
Right.
And it just makes you feel like I feel like it really gets the point across of like all the stuff that they're doing to try to figure out what's wrong with Reagan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you go through a lot of that.
Yeah.
And you know, there's one scene, especially after the dinner party. She actually invites a psychic. So it's very, very interesting because Chris very early on sees that there are strange changes in Reagan that she cannot explain and doctors cannot explain. The doctors at this point are basically just telling her like, well, you know, we could try giving her meds and we just monitor from there. And all the while Reagan's like saying like, fuck you, like, you know, like all this
Speaking
sort of
Latin.
speaking Latin
Yeah.
and like shaking the bed and like throwing things around. And Chris is like, okay, like she has ADHD. Like, I don't know. You know, like, that's what the doctors are like. Well, you know, it could. No, girl. Okay, she's possessed.
She has ADHD.
Yeah, she's like, she has ADHD. I don't know. And
give that kid some Adderall.
that's literally. I think they give her like Ritalin or something.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy at first, you know. And so, but Chris is saying this is not working, so she invites like a psychic, and then she invites the Jesuit priests, which, by the way, she specifically asks about Father Karras, which is real funny because he caught her eye. Can we talk about Father Daddy Demi Karras? Like,
yeah, I mean,
honestly,
I don't know if it's the same in the book, but I do remember the scene where she's like driving and she like sees him and she does like a double take. She's like, ooh,
yep,
that priest. And then
There's
she's like,
definitely a
I
little...
want Demi. There's definitely a little sexual tension.
There's a little sexual tension between the two, you know, because it's like, first of all, Father Karras, honestly, like a lot of the book is about, and the movie too, actually, is about him struggling with his faith.
Yeah.
And almost regretting becoming a priest because he was a boxer.
I definitely get those vibes. That man totally looks like Rocky Balboa.
Correct. And actually, they make a lot of references to certain obviously not Rocky because this is before Rocky.
Yeah.
But, you know, definitely certain comments like the detective makes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That they're like, oh, you're a boxer for sure. Like, da 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 da.
Wait, this came before Rocky?
Didn't it? When was Rocky
I
released?
don't know. That's crazy.
Wait, I thought Rocky's was in the 80s, no?
Maybe.
Rocky.
Okay,
we're going to look this up.
76.
Okay.
So it is. It does
It
predate
technically is before.
Rocky.
Rocky was based off of.
Oh my god, can
Father
you imagine?
Demi Karras.
It was the Exorcist fan fiction.
The Exorcist fanfiction. What if Father Karras hadn't become a priest?
Yeah. Reagan would still be possessed to this day.
Correct.
Or maybe she would have been possessed sooner.
Maybe,
that her
yeah.
father had
Yeah,
gone
yeah.
in there and been like, yeah, you need to look at this Catholic Church. Like, come on.
That's awesome. Yeah, but no, there's definitely a little, you know. Yeah.
For sure.
And then one other thing that I thought well, there's many things I find interesting, you know, between the book and the movie. In the book, you don't actually see Father Karras jump out the window.
What?
No. You don't. And so I think it does a really good job of like, because I think the movie, what it did really masterfully is, oh, she's possessed. Like, because you see all this crazy stuff happening, right? But in the book, it's a little more subtle than that.
Okay.
Because you're like, you see all this stuff happening and da-da-da-da-da. Like, the bed's floating. That she's definitely possessed, but like, it's almost like you share in Father Karras' doubt. Because Father Karras doubts his faith. So he doubts God, and so he doubts Satan.
Right.
and he's trying to go through this thing of like, no, there's no way this is real.
Yeah, like this could be scientifically
This could be
explained.
scientifically explained. Da 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 da. And so in the end, when he's like, take me, me. And then in the movie, you see him like become possessed.
Yeah.
In the book, you kind of see that as like his body like jerking. But then like it kind of ends there.
Is that where the book ends? Like,
well, the book doesn't end there, but you don't see it from his perspective anymore. You now see it from Chris.
Okay, but he does jump out the window.
He does.
Okay.
He does jump out the window, but you
Right.
don't see him do this.
Got it.
It just kind of cuts to him, if you will, like dead on the
ground. Right.
So I thought that was interesting that he included that in the movie, but not in the book.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wonder why.
Yeah, maybe after the fact, like after writing the book, he was like, I wanna make it clear like what happens here.
Yeah.
And that is also really interesting that the possession is a little more subtle in the book than the movie. I feel like maybe Friedkin was going for like that very like impactful like shock factor, but I think that would have been great in the film as well if it had been a little more like subtle.
Yeah.
And I do like the theme of like doubting faith and like doubting God, and so doubting Satan as well.
Right.
Super interesting.
I think, you know what? We might have just answered that question. I think that's probably why in the book you didn't see him jump, because it adds to that, like it's like you're going through this crisis of faith with Father Karras, so I think Father Karras is an immensely interesting character.
Yeah, absolutely. And even in the middle of the exorcism, like at one point, like Father Marin is like, get out, like you gotta get out, because Demi's kind of starting to talk back, and he's not helping.
Right, like you're not helping us at all.
Yeah. I also love the scene where they're kind of taking a break and they're both sitting on the stairs.
Oh yeah.
And you can see like the door to her room in the background.
Yep.
I love that shot a lot. I think
yeah.
it's really cool. I also think it's really interesting whenever Reagan, like, or Pazuzu, pukes all over Father Marin.
Yeah.
And he has to take off his little purple stole thing and like clean it.
Yeah.
And then put it back
please
on.
clean the stole.
Yeah. He's
Here
like,
you go.
I can't wear this anymore.
I can't have pea soup on my stole. I need you to take this.
Yeah, this was supposed to hit me in the chest, but it hit me everywhere else.
Yeah. Another thing I found very interesting, there's a quote in the book that I really like. And that was like, it was like two heads of the Catholic Church. Like they were like higher up than the priests. And they were like, do you have someone whom you can send to do this exorcism? And the other priest goes, well, we have Father Marin. They're like, don't you think he's getting a little too old for this? And he said, that's the thing about the Catholic Church. We go where we are sent. And for me, it, because Father Marin, first of all, let's go back to that prologue.
Yeah.
Right? You see Father Marin excavating these ruins, and I almost feel like he was so okay. Disclaimer here: I have not seen the other Exorcist movies.
Yeah.
So I think they do go into like the Exorcist beginning, like it goes into like the background of Father Karras. So this is me going in from Father Marin. Yes, you're right. Sorry. So this is me going in from a place of ignorance on that part.
Right. Yeah, me too. I also but I wonder if Blatty was kind of setting that up in a way, because does he write?
That's
like,
a good question. I actually don't know if is it canon?
Is it canon? It does leave me wondering, like, whenever I first watched the film, I was like, oh, like they find this like weird relic thing, like,
right.
What happened to that?
And that's
like, where
Pazuzu,
did it go? And,
who, by the way, listener, if you don't know, Pazuzu is like the demon that's inhabiting Reagan. That's
and they don't even name him in the first movie.
I don't think so, right? Okay, so yeah, but it was really interesting in that prologue where Father Marin and the statue are like facing off against each other.
Yes.
It almost looks like a Pokemon battle, actually. Where it's like one of them is like over here, the other one's over there, and it's like yeah.
It's an anime fight.
So, yeah. So, but then to come full circle after that, and when the demon says, this time you're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if that's a quote from the movie or the
that
book.
is. I mean, it's
From the
definitely in the
movie?
movie. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. This time you're gonna lose. Oh my god! Like just knowing what's
Yeah.
going to happen just sends a chill down your spine.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it when movies do that. When you like you go back and you catch things that
Yes.
you didn't catch the first time you watched them.
Yes.
So good.
That yes, that definitely is so creepy. It's the same like feeling whenever Reagan tells that astronaut like you're gonna die up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually did look up. I was like, were there anything? But there weren't any accidents around that time to like, you know, had that be like a predictive thing.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And then I'm trying to look and see who wrote. So the Exorcist 2, the Heretic.
The Heretic.
Heretic.
Supposedly the worst one.
Yeah, it was written by someone called William Goodhart, so it wasn't Blatty, and it also wasn't directed by Friedkin. It was some other person, but it does have. It's based on the characters from Blatty's novel.
Okay, yeah.
Do you want to talk about the good, what was it? The good, the bad,
the
and the
spooky.
spooky?
That's right. So let's start with the good.
Okay, the good.
Okay.
Okay,
What
I'll go
stands
first.
out for you? Yeah, go for
First
it.
of all, I like the movie. I like most movies. They're good.
Right.
I love the house. I love the setting and I love the shots of the film. Of course, like the super iconic shot of Father Merrin stepping out of the cab in front of the house, like so good. Like I mentioned earlier, like the two Father Merrin and Father Karen.
Karis.
Karis. Oh
Yeah.
my god, why do I keep saying that wrong?
Father Karen?
Father-
Just call him Demi.
Dimmy, Daddy Dimmy, sitting at the stairs in front of the door is like super iconic. I love the makeup. Like,
Yeah.
it just
Oh.
scares me so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
I don't know how they made her look so creepy, but they did an amazing
They really did.
job. And also, Dimmy's hot. Like,
Honestly,
Honestly,
absolutely.
like, why did they have to do that? Is he hot in the book?
Yes.
Okay,
It's
good.
definitely, well, you know, he's like a man's man,
Man's man.
right? Like, I mean, they never say those words specifically,
Yeah.
but that's what you get out of the
Yeah.
way he acts, the way because
Used
he's
to be a
he's so
boxer.
protective. It's almost like because so like Chris has recently gotten a divorce from her husband, and at first she blames herself for Reagan's behavior because she thinks she's acting out because of the divorce. And so, you know, that's tragic and heartbreaking
Yeah.
all in itself because she blames herself for her daughter hurting herself so much. But it's almost like Father Karras comes in and forms like a family unit with these two people, right?
For sure. And I think one of the first scenes in the movie where Chris goes to Father Karras,
Yeah.
she's like crying and he's like hugging her and like trying to like comfort her
Yeah.
because of like the situation.
Yeah. There's one particular scene in the book that's not in the movie, I don't think, is when, because Father Karras only knows the demon Reagan.
Yeah.
He doesn't know Reagan like the little girl
Yeah.
Reagan. And he actually never meets her.
Yeah, because Wow,
And-
that's interesting. I've never thought about that.
And there's one moment right before he becomes possessed when Chris is like looking through old photo books and she's like, "Oh, that's right, you've never seen her. Well, I'm gonna get myself some whiskey with this coffee or whatever." Because at this point she's self-medicating, you know.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
And so he like is curious and he flips through the pictures and it's like this new real like. I think that's maybe the moment he believes the most because it is such a big difference.
Yeah.
I mean, Reagan at this point is scary makeup Reagan.
Yeah.
She's emaciated. I mean, like her ribs are sticking out. She's
Yeah.
got bruises all over her body, all this other
Cuts,
stuff,
yeah.
cuts. And then she sees this beautiful little girl, right? And he's like, whoa, like it just dawns on him like what a difference this is.
Yeah.
And that definitely, I think, sets him up for what he ultimately does, which is sacrifice himself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what about your good?
Okay. I love this movie. Okay, I love this movie so much. I think it does such a great job. Mood setting.
Yeah.
Mood setting is like my favorite thing. If you set the mood in a scary movie,
Yeah.
I don't care what you're doing. I'm enjoying. Okay. Um, there's lots of buildup here that just doesn't disappoint with the payoff. Like, oh my god, the Exorcist, the battle,
Yeah.
right? The literal
Pokemon
battle,
battle.
the Pokemon battle between Father Merrin and the demon, is just so intense and so beautifully filmed. I mean, like everything from the cinematography, first of all, the music.
The music.
One thing I noticed about the music is that there's not a lot of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed, but like the sound editing and stuff like that, it's a lot of like silence. And I think going back to what you said about Friedkin trying to make this look like a regular house.
Yeah.
I think that's where he was getting that sound, those sound cues from.
Yeah.
Because a house that is not lively is silent.
Yeah.
Almost like it's dying.
Yeah.
Right? Which in a lot of ways mirrors Reagan's body. Like Reagan's body is dying.
Yeah.
So I absolutely love that take. And then of course you have the classic soundtrack, like the music that, you know, who I don't remember who did the composing for this, but it's just such a classic song. And that's one of the only songs that's played in that movie.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and it's like at the beginning and then like the credits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so wonderfully done, and you know, less is more in this case. It's kind of a little ironic to say like I love the soundtrack to this film, but like they truly did such a great job with the silence.
Yeah,
it's so
like,
deafening, right?
It's like the effect that the minimal soundtrack has
100%
on the experience of watching this film.
Yeah,
Okay,
and as a final note for the
yeah,
good,
yeah,
actually.
No, yes, please.
I thought honestly this movie, I love it because it also set like new standards for horror. 100%.
Totally.
It literally broke the movies and then redefined the genre by pushing boundaries that no one had pushed before.
Yeah.
And I love that they did this. I mean, without The Exorcist, you wouldn't have had stuff like Alien, for example, because Alien, there's a lot of like vaginal imagery.
Yeah.
In Alien, like the eggs when they open, it's like it's a vagina. Okay, like it's like yeah.
It's a vagina.
Yeah, it's literally it's eggs, but
Yeah.
they're like testes. Like honestly, like it. I love this movie for that, especially because we would not have horror the way we have it without The Exorcist, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's something I wanted to say about that.
Cool. What about the bad?
The bad.
The bad.
Okay, don't crucify me, please. Don't crucify me. I do think that watching it in 2024, it does get a little slow.
That is actually exactly what I wrote down as well.
I think it's, you know, I talk about mood setting and it's wonderful and it does that really, really well. But some parts of the movie do drag.
Yeah. I feel like you kind of have to really like settle into it.
Right.
I felt like the prologue scene that we've talked about a couple of times, it really like feels very long. Like I remember, because I watched this movie a long time ago and then watched it again before filming, and I remember that beginning scene where they're like at the archaeological dig site and it's, you know, Father Merrin out there, and I'm like, this is a lot. Like, this is very long. It's like the first like 15-20 minutes.
Well, there's a lot of like long looks.
Yes.
And it's not always effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the complaint that I have. That's the only thing I have under the bad.
Honestly, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I also think, you know, to kind of counter that just a little bit, it is definitely a classic movie from the 70s.
Yeah.
And I think if you watch it from that lens, you just have to be patient for the payoff. And just like I feel like any horror movie, you just have to get into it. You know what I mean? You have to watch it from that specific lens. So.
Yeah, for sure.
What about the spooky?
Spooky.
Honestly,
Honestly, to me, like the spooky factor really comes from like this theme of like possession. Like that's something that's always like scared me a lot. And this movie totally did not help because of, you know, the makeup and the scenes. I mean, it's pretty impactful. So to me, the spooky is like the possession and like the whole like Catholic Church has to perform an exorcism. Like those are always the movies that kind of freak me out the most, more than like any other horror film.
Yeah, because at that point you've lost all agency.
Yeah.
You're under the control of something that's evil, that's trying to destroy you, and your only hope, at least in the context of this movie, is the Catholic Church. Okay. So, you know, that is not necessarily a bad thing, but they work so slowly.
Yeah.
Like, for exorcism especially, you have to
There's like
gather
a whole like process,
evidence,
jump through
and it
hoops.
doesn't always work.
Yeah.
So, that is definitely spooky.
Yeah.
For me, I love. Okay, so I chose 3 very specific adjectives to describe the spooky for me.
Yeah.
The movie's very dark. In that the theme is dark. I mean, you could relate it to child abuse, and even trafficking at some point because of like Reagan's removal from like this world basically into this like evil, you know, like evil
a
world.
metaphor.
Yeah, like a metaphor for that. And definitely child abuse. Not that anyone is abusing Reagan except for the demon, right?
Yeah.
The demon is definitely abusing her emotionally, physically, sexually, etc.
Yeah, in every single way.
In every single way. And parents who are, they just cannot stop it.
Yeah.
They are powerless,
Yeah.
right? So it is very dark. It's heavy. I mean, you see like Chris McNeil's like face throughout the entire movie just get worse and worse and worse, but it's because she can't sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, her daughter, whom she loves very much, has changed so completely, and she can do nothing to help her. So it's a very heavy topic, and this is the most important adjective I think I came up with, is it's pessimistic. There's no hope. Father Marion comes in and she immediately says, what? This time you're going to lose.
Yeah.
There's no hope in this movie. It's hopeless completely. And does the demon, do we really win when Father Karras had to sacrifice his own life?
No.
You know, like, is it, I mean, Reagan's okay, and that's great, and we love that. Good for her. But we still lost somebody who actually was a good.
And I mean, 2 people
person.
at that point died.
Right. Actually, yeah, her director friend too had been killed by this person.
Yeah.
So I love the movie in that it's very pessimistic and there's no hope, and you're in it, and you're just in it, and you're living in that world, and you can't do anything about it. You're going through all of the motions.
Yeah.
And I really love that about this story. Yeah. Cool.
We need to watch the second one. Now I want to watch Heretic.
Now I want to watch The Heretic, but I hear it's really bad.
I also hear it's really bad.
But I will watch it.
And we did watch The Exorcist Believer, which was the one that came out.
Yes, the Avengers of Exorcism.
Oh my god, that one was so good. That one was like the coexist sticker.
Yes, the coexist sticker
of movies.
It
was like
movies.
An exorcism of
I
like a
love
multi-faith
that so
exorcism.
much.
It was not great.
So how would you rate this movie? Let's rate this movie in terms of amount of projectile vomit you would ejaculate from your mouth. The more, the better, obviously.
Got it.
Okay.
So, wait, what's our range? Do we have a range?
Come up with one.
Okay. I would say,
on the spot,
like,
let's go.
I would projectile vomit. I would say, like,
Make it good.
8.5.
8.5.
8.5 feet. I would projectile vomit out of 10 possible projectile vomit feet.
Nice. Out of 10 possible
possible feet that I could projectile vomit, I would projectile vomit 8.5. And I would only say that because honestly, like, my opinion of these films, like, it always is based off like my enjoyment of the film. And honestly, a lot of the time I just think of like, would I want to watch this movie again? And because it freaks me out, this is not a movie that I want to like sit down and watch again compared to,
It's too freaky.
It's freaky, and Oh, I don't know. It's like off-putting. Like they did a really good job
Yeah.
with
It's pessimistic.
It is absolutely compared to like The Conjuring 2, which is a film that also deals with exorcism
Yeah.
and an individual being possessed, but it's just way more hopeful.
True.
And it has a happier ending, and it's just a different vibe. And I love The Conjuring 2, and The Conjuring 1 for that matter. So I would say, yeah, 8.5, 8.5 feet out of a possible
out of
10.
10.
Yeah. What about you?
I love this film, so I would give it a 9.5.
Okay.
Honestly, the only reason I don't give it a 10 is because of the pacing, but I think if it was back in the day, I would have given it a 10.
Yeah.
So literally 10 feet out of 10 with my stomach turning inside into out of my mouth. Like I would projectile vomit my insides out into. I love this film so much. It's honestly such a great film.
It's so good.
I love the spooky pessimistic. Like that's my vibe of movie. Like we talked about The Witch.
The Witch.
That also is a very pessimistic movie.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I love when a movie has a happy ending, and
Not me. I mean, okay, I do, but I also love a bad ending.
I sometimes
like,
love a bad
damn, bro.
ending, but sometimes I'm like, I just wanted the satisfying ending. So not necessarily
Yeah.
the happy ending, but the satisfying ending where you're
Okay.
like, yes,
Okay.
good. And I think sometimes I love films that have that, like When Evil Lurks.
Uh-huh.
I think that's
When Evil Lurks is.
I think that's a
That's a bad ending.
projectile vomit my stomach out.
Oh,
Like
okay.
10 out of 10.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I love
Stomach
that
projectile
movie.
vomit.
Yeah, like you can see my intestines, like because I puke that hard.
And they're so cute.
My intestines?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. I
Thank
love
you.
Okay, so honestly, this next segment we kind of came up with a little bit on the fly, but I think it could be really fun. So let's try it out. This is going to be our Letterboxd segment. Okay, we're going to see if Letterboxd agrees with our ratings, and then we might even read some funny ones.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's read some memorable Letterboxd reviews because Letterboxd.
I love Letterboxd.
I mean, it's just so great.
It's
You guys
so
are
good.
so creative, you guys, for sure. I'm not this creative at all. Like I cannot post funny stuff like this. Some of you guys really can. Like for example, I kind of like this one by Dirk H. I hope when my daughter hits puberty, it'll be a tad less eventful.
Oh my god.
Are there any daughter moms or dads out there can give this person a little bit of
Yeah.
advice? I'm not a parent myself, so I don't know.
So on Letterboxd, this film has 4 stars out of a possible 5. So I guess if we were to convert that
Okay.
into our
projectile
projectile
vomit, it'd be
vomit
about 8
system, it'd be
feet.
an 8-foot projectile vom.
Okay.
Let's take a look at some of these other comments.
I really like this one by Nico. 12-year-olds are just like that. As an
That's so
educator, I will
funny.
refrain from giving my own opinion, but it was really funny to me,
Oh
so
my
that can say something.
god.
Oh man.
They're so good.
on the
They're so good.
on the makeup part, Aaron Michaels said, "Someone get this girl some chapstick."
Yes, wait. Yes. Also, someone
Those
commented,
chap
I
lips.
rebuke this energy. Like, on like posts
Yeah.
online where it's like a really freaky post and everyone will comment like,
Yeah.
I reject this negative energy. Like, I reject these negative vibes. Like, that's me. Like, that's me with Ouija boards and like all creepy stuff. I'm like, no.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we'll end it with this one by Cookie, Hot Priest Blueprint.
T.
Period. Okay.
The Exorcist
T.
walked so
T.
Fleabag could run.
Run, girl. So that about does it for today, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Thank you for joining us, listener. Mariana, would you like to tell our listeners what movie we're doing next?
We will be watching Oddity.
That's right.
Super excited. This is a new film. It came out this year, 2024. Is produced by A24. Love A24.
Oh, Daddy
So,
A24.
Daddy A24. So I'm very excited for this next one.
Yay, me too. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please don't forget to rate us 5 stars.
Which is 10 feet of vomit.
10 feet of vomit, and it might include your innards. So be prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
In whatever app or podcasting service you use to bring on the spooks. My name is Joanne.
And I'm Mariana.
And thanks for joining us for another scary movie night. Stay scared.
Stay scared.
That was good, right?
That was good.